The revolving door apparently keeps spinning in Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham's cabinet. Recently, she announced new leadership in the Education and Public Safety departments. Now comes word that Children, Youth and Family Secretary Brian Blaylock is stepping down this month. Mr. Blaylock, you might remember, has faced criticism for spearheading the use of temporary messaging service called Signal to conduct public business. Mr. Blaylock says he is leaving to follow his wife in a new career opportunity for her in California. But the bigger question here is this just normal turnover for high-stress jobs during a difficult time? Or, Senator, should we be worried there is something else going on here with all this turnover?
I would be a little concerned about the turnover, what I consider high turnover in the other departments. In CYFD, I'm sorry, it has been a revolving door. As long as I can remember, I started in the legislature in January 2001. It was an issue then. We went through, and this has been an issue regardless of which party was in the exact control of the executive. So I don't think we can say that it's any more. I'd have to go back and count all the numbers, but I don't think it's any higher than it was over the last few years. But I think we do have a right to be concerned about what CYFD is doing. I do think that, and in leaving to support your spouse sounds a little strange to me, but then so does pursue other opportunities, which we hear frequently. But Justice Barbara Vigil, the public may not know or may not have noticed in the article, was a former children's court judge. So she has a lot of, for about 10 years or so, she has a lot of experience in dealing with children and their parents and their care and having to make decisions about those. I have to tell you what I think should happen, and this is just me, with her in place. I think she's outstanding. And as an attorney and as a former judge, she reminds me much of the Solomon kind of situation. She fits that image to me. We should get an outside entity, someplace in the United States, to come in and evaluate this department. Now, we've had this department and that department, and please don't get me wrong, I think David Abbey and the LFC and his staff are excellent in doing evaluations. But I think we need someone that has no connections to New Mexico, come in and do the evaluation. We've tried separating the entities. We've tried creating a new department. We've changed secretaries, as we've talked about.
That's right.
But I want to know what we
It's not a bad idea. Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Merritt, the state now faces a whistleblower lawsuit from two former CYFD employees who claimed they were fired for bringing those concerns about Signal to light, as uncovered by Searchlight New Mexico in a series of reports, by the way. Is a fresh start the best thing for CYFD, given that cloud of scandal?
Yes.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I like that.
Yes, I mean, it's almost it has to be blown up and started over. I feel like for any gubernatorial candidate at this point for 2022, you could ignore any other issue and say, I pledge I will make CYFD a functional, effective agency, and that could win the election. It could be a single issue. It could be a single issue campaign. And I think to Diane's point, one thing about bringing Justice Vigil in, you know, other state child welfare agencies have had to go under federal receivership. And certainly Justice Vigil would know how to make that transition and administer that. And that may be the only way forward at this point, because
that's a fascinating idea. That's a fascinating idea, Mary. I had not heard that proposed before. That's interesting.
I think it's very clear that this administration sees CYFD as a liability to not be managed effectively, but to be kept out of the news.
Gotcha.
And this is damage control only. And until we have a governor who is really willing to make CYFD function for the welfare of New Mexico families and children, perhaps to Diane's point, outside oversight is the only way forward.
Professor, I got a question here. We also know who will be leading CYFD. Senator mentioned in the short term will be interim, but the newly retired Supreme Court Justice Barbara Vigil will take the helm, as we just heard. Justice Vigil's experience in this area as a head of the state's children's court, as Merritt mentioned. Do you think she will be a good fit here? Because what Merritt's proposing is someone to come in and basically clean house. I mean, she's got a lot of experience, but is this the person to clean house, so to speak?
I think, Justice Vigil is incredibly respected among the bar and folks, who have interacted with her, throughout her career. She has vast experience in not just being an attorney and being a judge, but in some of the administrative aspects of running the state, the courts in the state of New Mexico, serving as the Chief Justice. And she's, there's not a hint of scandal about her. She's going to be a solid head of this agency. I think she's more than up to the task. I certainly don't envy her. This task. I mean, this is probably one of the hardest jobs in any state government to be in charge of CYFD, right? As Merritt was saying, the governor wants us to stay out of the news. Well, that's what we all want, because CYFD makes the news when things go catastrophically wrong.
That's true.
Right. And so threading that, finding that line of doing what the agency does, of protecting children while also trying to respect the rights of parents throughout the state of New Mexico, and also do it efficiently and effectively with the budgetary and other administrative restraints. This is an unbelievably challenging task. I think Justice Vigil is a fantastic choice for it, but like I said, I don't envy her, that's for sure.
Merritt, it's a $100 million budget at CYFD, $100 million. And they're asked to do a lot of things. I've got to wonder if they're being asked to do too many things.
I think,
Go ahead, Merritt.
no, I didn't know. I didn't quite hear. I think that's certainly, I think that's certainly fair. They're understaffed. They have pay issues. I know in 2016, starting salary for a child advocate was $15 an hour, and that was for a degreed child advocate.
Wow. That's not going to work.
Yeah, they have issues with middle management being somewhat entrenched and risk averse. There's a tremendous issue. Secretary Blaylock came in with a completely new approach, which was keeping families together. And so that was a complete change of culture from what had previously been. I think you don't change a culture with a completely new mindset overnight. So that is certainly true. We don't have enough foster parents. So often children go out of state, and the child advocates who often have double the caseload that they're supposed to.
That's right.
Also, so they're supposed to visit every child in their dossier once a month. Also, sometimes they're supposed to travel out of state.
That's right.
So
change is hard. My old boss.
People.
My old boss, Heather Wilson, when she was head of CYFD under Gary Johnson, she had a heck of a time just trying to make an inch worth of change. It's a very difficult situation. That's all the time we have for that discussion. Up next, the looming threat of evictions and utility shutoffs.